Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sacktown Movie Buffs, a show dedicated to film discussion and film reviews. I'm Kier, and this is Jason, and we are back again for another podcast today. So we decided to switch things up a little bit, and since we're not able to watch a whole lot of current movies because of the coronavirus situation going on right now, we've been quarantined. So what we decided to do instead was start focusing on some of our top tens from previous years, and we chose to start off with 1995. 1995 being such a great year, and so we're going to start off with our top 10 films of 1995. With this show, just for time constraints, we're going to probably just do 10 through 6, and then we'll do another show, which would be 5 through 1. And so that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. And Jason, 1995, great year. What does that mean for you?
Yeah. Well, you forgot to mention that the concept is that we decided to do top tens for every year that we've known each other. So
That is true.
yeah. 1995 is the first year we met back in high school. So
It's
I
true.
think that's a good. It's fun to talk about older movies, and a lot of these movies, obviously, I have emotional connections to, nostalgic connections to. I'm sure the same with you.
Right.
But something when I was looking over the movies of 1995, I also realized like it was a very pivotal year for me movie wise because that was like looking over those movies. It made me realize that that was when I was starting to expand my knowledge of movies, kind of outside of just what was playing in Yuba City. Which if I'm sure a lot of people don't know Yuba City, but we had one theater that had 8 screens, so we're pretty much going to get like Hollywood stuff. Well,
Right.
we had Sutter too, but still. Um, but looking at those movies, it made me realize that that was when I first started seeking out other kinds of movies. It was when I first started going to theaters like the Tower and the Crest that would show these independent films that I was just kind of starting to learn what that even meant. So it was a pretty pivotal year for me, and a lot of movies that kind of changed the way I thought about movies. So it'll be fun to go back and do this like journey year by year, I think. So, what do
I
you
agree.
same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. 95 was definitely a year where I started to pay attention a little bit more to films itself, like you said, outside of, just whatever was playing at the local theaters or, with me, I lived overseas for many years. I lived in like Japan and Germany and stuff like that growing up. So our selection was really, really limited. You know what I mean? We relied on whatever movies that they were able to get over to the military bases that I lived on overseas was a lot of times were movies that were like 6 months behind, and usually it was only like the movies that were like really, really popular. So we weren't seeing a lot of the indie stuff, and so a lot of that stuff went completely over my head as a kid because I didn't see a lot of that stuff. I had to kind of catch up with that stuff as I got older, and I feel like around 94, 95, once I moved back stateside, is when I really started to focus on more, edgier stuff, more indie stuff. And for me, it probably began maybe even a year before, but definitely by '95, I was starting to seek out more films and things of that nature. So yeah, absolutely.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool. Well, I think this will be a fun project.
I agree. I agree. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. And so yeah, well, with that said, let's get into it, man. You want to kick us off with your number 10 for 1995?
Sure. And by the way, I want to point out that it was very hard to do this list. I almost just did it straight up alphabetically because it was so hard to rank all these movies because they're all movies that I've loved for 25 years. So, but I did eventually finally rank them. So, but these are all 5-star amazing movies, just to say. So my number
Absolutely.
10 for 1995 is Friday.
Awesome.
Yeah, great movie. One that you showed me. I remember because again we had just met this year and we started showing each other movies all the time. So, but I think Friday is a great movie. I'm a big fan of movies that have like a condensed time frame. So, like it says, it all takes place over one Friday in South Central Los Angeles.
Right.
And this movie was interesting because at the time, in the 90s, it was there were movies like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society were coming out all the time, and these movies were almost always like really dark and depressing
Yeah.
and violent. And what was interesting about this was it showed you that it took a lighter approach that showed you that that stuff happens, but there's also just regular everyday things that happen too. Um, and I really appreciated that how well it juggles tone, because it is just a silly comedy in a lot of ways, but it also has pretty serious themes. It definitely has an anti-violence theme, um, and it does a really good job of juggling like the silly comedy with the more intense stuff, and it'll like change from scene to scene sometimes, but it works. So great movie. Because it's number 10 on my list doesn't mean that I like it any less than any of the other ones, really. So
Right.
that's my
Right.
number
Yeah.
10.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Friday is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, it's in my top 10 of all time, not just of 1995. And
Yeah.
with that said, it's definitely going to be on my list, but definitely further up the list. Wait up the list. Yeah, no, it's a great movie. I mean, I fell in love with this movie the first time that I watched it. It was like one of those movies. It's one of those rare occasions where I watched it, and then like a few hours later, I was like, I want to watch that again. You know what I mean? I love the story. The humor is great, and like you said, it does give a definitely. I'm not going to say it's a positive portrayal of growing up in like the hood or the ghetto or anything like that, but it definitely is a little bit more lighthearted than Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood and some of those other films that came out years before it. And the cast is great. Ice Cube's amazing in there. Chris Tucker's great in there. It's got a great cast. It's funny. There's a lot of like life lessons in there, with the scene
Yeah,
about
yeah.
a gun to a fight, you can use your fist, that kind of stuff. So
Right.
it's a great film, fun, one of the funniest movies that I've ever seen, and I still watch it today. I just watched it a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, actually. It's just a really great movie that I can pull out anytime, and I can literally watch that movie any time of day. And if it's on TV, I usually will catch a few minutes of it. I don't always watch the whole thing, but if it shows up on TV, I'll at least watch a few minutes of it. So because it's just so much fun. So
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Cool.
Great choice for your number 10 for 95.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not going to own most of the films that are in the bottom half. I think I probably own all the ones in the top half, but that'll be on the next show. But my number 10 is actually going to be Kids. So great film, great Larry Clark film. Not for everybody, of course. Basically centers around, I would say, basically kind of like New York skateboarding punks, basically. So and it's the way it's shot. It almost feels like a documentary. They're actors in there, but it feels kind of it feels real realistic. You know what I mean? Like they're like there's not a whole lot of lines. Like they just turn the camera on and just let them just kind of do their thing. And so, there's a lot of conflict in there. They get in fights. They, of course, use drugs. And, they of course, are getting intimate with each other and that sort of stuff. But it's just a really good. It's a really good
way of putting it. Yeah.
Just the PC version of it. It's a really great film and one that I used to own on DVD, but once again it got lost over the years. So it's one of the ones I definitely will rebuy probably at some point because I really do enjoy that one. Like I said, it's not for everybody because it is definitely a very hard R, I would say, and it's definitely got some subject matter that some people may not, and because they're thought to be all teenagers and that sort of stuff. So and they're engaging in all these illicit activities. Some people may not enjoy that, but if you're into that kind of stuff or that kind of stuff doesn't bother you, then I think it's a great film to check out. So Kids is number 10 for me.
Yeah. I like Kids a lot. It didn't make my list. I don't think it even made my runner-ups, even though I do really like it a lot. But as you know, I like a lot of movies.
Right.
I am a Larry Clark fan. I probably like Bully a little bit more than Kids, but they're both really good movies about
Kids, teenagers.
Yeah. I haven't watched Kids in a really long time. That might be one of the reasons why it didn't make the list. But I do. My recollections of it are very positive. And also, do you remember that Rosario Dawson is in that movie?
Yeah.
Like it's her first movie.
Yeah.
She's like 12 or something.
Yeah, super young in there. Chloe Sevigny's in there as well,
Yeah,
and there's got a few people that are in that film that are uh, with the Harmony. Uh,
Karian
uh,
or Grant, I don't know.
yeah,
Well, yeah, he
yeah. I
wrote it.
think yeah. So I think he's in there as well as one of the characters. So I think he has like a bit part, but he's in there also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
love that movie. I love that movie. Didn't make my list, but it's a great movie.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right,
All
number
right.
nine, sir.
Number nine. Moving just one great movie after another, as far as I'm concerned. My number nine is The Usual Suspects. So this was obviously a very important film for a lot of reasons. It was one of those movies that was just a big moment when it came out. Um,
Yeah,
and it's one of those that I'll never forget the first time that I saw it. And actually, I saw it like before. I was talking about earlier how in where I grew up, where I was in 1995 anyway, there was very limited in terms of what movies we got. And if it was a movie like The Usual Suspects, it didn't show up in town until after it became a thing. So,
right.
but I saw it in Sacramento. I had to drive to Sacramento to see it. Uh, Again, this was the first year I actually started driving an hour away just to see movies. But I saw it before all the hype. So I actually got to see it before it became this big "Who is Kaiser Soze" thing, you know.
Right.
And I had never seen anything like that movie really. It's so creepy. It's got great atmosphere. You don't the twist ending like it really hits. I mean, that's a great twist ending, and I
Right.
think it's still a great twist ending 25 years later. And it's just it's one of those things that like it's one of those movies that I'll never forget seeing that for the first time, and it still holds up. It's got its naysayers these days. There's not that many of them, but there are people that will tell you it's a bad movie, poorly written movie, and I don't know what they're talking about. Frankly, I think it won the Oscar for the screenplay for a reason. It's just a great thriller. The whole cast is great. I use the word great too much, but it really is great. So that's my number
No,
nine, The
no, I
Usual
agree.
Suspects.
Yeah, I agree. It is a really really good film. I enjoy it quite a bit. It didn't quite make my top 10, but it is a really really good film. It's got a like I said the twist ending is second to none. But the problem with movies like that have like great twist endings like that, or The Sixth Sense, or some of those other types of films, is that I feel like after a few years, after everybody has seen it, they kind of get a bad rap in some capacity. You know what I mean? Like everybody then goes back and has to critique it, and oh well, that didn't make sense, or that's not a good film. That's what I mean. And so there's always this backlash. I feel like everybody loves it when it first comes out, and no one's seen it. But then like after years have passed and everybody learns about the twist, then it gets analyzed and dissected, and that sort of stuff is what I feel like happens with films like that, just from my perspective. And I've seen it happen with other films as well, where they seem like they came out, they had this great film with a great twist, and then years later, everybody's like, "Oh, this isn't that good of a movie, or it's not that great." But I still enjoy it. It's a great film. Definitely one that I haven't seen in a few years, but I plan on actually rewatching again here soon. It was one that was actually on my radar to watch since we were going to do the '95. But my recollection of it's a great film. Like I said, it just missed my top 10. So.
Yeah, cool, cool.
My number nine is one that I don't own either, of course. So I know. Hey, man, I just don't buy as many films as you do. So what am I supposed to say? It's actually going to be Leaving Las Vegas. So another film that is basically not one for everybody. I would say it stars Nicolas Cage and Sharon Stone. Yeah. No.
No,
Who's there? I'm sorry.
Elizabeth Shue.
Elizabeth Shue. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Adventures in Babysitting, man.
Yeah, years ago, years before that. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Elizabeth Shue. Yeah, it's set in obviously Vegas. He's basically an alcoholic, uh, terrible alcoholic. Is basically just kind of uh, drinking himself to almost to his death, and kind of meets Elizabeth Shue's character, who also has a very checkered past as well, and they kind of form like this relationship and bond. They both have their issues and that sort of stuff. Some would probably characterize it as being overly depressive. Depressive, it's very, some people wouldn't like it because it is the subject matter of it. You are watching a guy that's kind of starts off just being an alcoholic and kind of gets progressively worse as the film goes along. He's volatile. He's very angry, drunk at times, and so it's a great film, but it's like one of those ones where you kind of have to be in the mood to watch it as well. You know what I mean? You have to be kind of open minded for that. It's not a film that I'm going to wake up on a Saturday morning and plop on and have a good time, probably. but no, it's a great film nonetheless. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love Leaving Las Vegas. In fact, it's going to show up in the second half of the show. It's in the upper five of my top 10 for 1995. And again, speaking of, for the first time, this year, it was either that or the Lawrence Fishburne, Kenneth Branagh version of Othello was the first movie I ever saw at the Tower Theater, which is,
Okay.
for anybody that doesn't know, is really the only, at the time, the preeminent um, independent, like, art house theater in Sacramento. So again, it was one of those where, I was learning about these kind of movies that were supposed to be different than what was playing at the multiplex. So I would seek those out. I had to drive an hour to see Leaving Las Vegas. A lot of people might think that's weird that I would drive as a 17, 18-year-old. I would drive over an hour to watch a depressing drama about a suicidal alcoholic, but I did it, and I thought it was an amazing movie then. I still think it's an amazing movie. I watched it like last year, I think, and for the first time in a long time, and it still holds up. It's very, very 90s, It's very 90s. It's got that saxophone on the score, I mean, like, it's a little dated in some aspects, but it's still one of Nicolas Cage's best performances. It's still probably Elizabeth Shue's best performance, I'm sure. It's a great movie. Yeah, it's on my list a little bit further down, but yeah, good pick. And that's one of the first movies me and you went to see in the theater. Because another thing, that was another one where I saw it at the Tower, and then, like, once it got all this acclaim, got all these award nominations, then it showed up in Yuba City,
Right.
finally, yeah. So I remember it was one of those. I was like, I was just starting to get to know you, and I was like, this guy's got good taste in movies. Let's go see this depressing drama, and you liked it, so that was good. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's definitely a film that I'll say again is not for necessarily for everybody, but definitely one that if you are open minded and are can watch something that's not fun and light and easygoing, then one that you can definitely check out and have a good time. So
Yes.
all right, number 8, moving right along.
Oh yeah, this is my turn. Yeah, I talked so much about it.
Yeah, you're number 8.
You're number 9. Yeah. Okay. My number 8 it's actually the only movie on this list that I didn't see in the theater. I didn't see it till a few years later. But that is Before Sunrise. All right. This is it's a really good movie. Richard Linklater, one of my favorite filmmakers. It is again a movie set over just the course of less than 24 hours. Stars Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, two people who meet on a train in Europe and just decide to get off the train in Vienna and spend the night together. That's basically the entire movie. Some people might think that doesn't sound very interesting, but I love that kind of thing. And it's just the dialogue in this movie, the camera work. I like the way that it feels very immediate. It makes you feel like you're there with them, but at the same time, so it feels realistic in that kind of sense. Like, this is what it would be like if you got off the train and just walked around the town overnight. But it also has kind of like a very kind of romantic, kind of dreamlike feel to it also. And of course, Linklater revisited those two characters 2 more times, 9 years apart. And Before Sunset, and Before Midnight are both, I think, fittingly, they're not as kind of lush and romantic as this one, but I think that works because this movie really does convey what it's like to meet somebody, that kind of rush when you meet somebody and you have an emotional connection with them. And then the later movies are kind of more about what happens when the relationship gets old. Sounds bad, but you know what I mean. Like once the rush is over with, trying to stay together once the rush is over with. So that's one of my favorite films. Again, the only one that I didn't see. I think I probably saw it before Sunset, but before Sunset came out. So I was late on that one a little bit, but all the other ones I saw in the theater on this list.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's another one that, like I said, just missed my list. I love it. I actually do own that one. No, it's a great film. You love that it's basically, I know, right? That it was actually, essentially in, like within like a 24-hour period, or within a day, I guess, if you will. I love the aspect of just two strangers meeting on a train in Europe, you know what I mean, that decide to basically spend the day with each other. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a love story where you don't know how it's going to end up necessarily until you see the sequels, of course. But I do like that aspect of it, and yeah, it's just a great dialogue film. It's one of those films where nothing crazy happens in it. They're just talking about life and love and happiness and that sort of stuff. So it's really like one of those really good films that you can just kind of watch and reflect on. It's kind of easygoing. I think the second one's a little bit easygoing as well. Maybe gets a little bit heavier in certain parts. Before Midnight definitely is a little bit heavier in that sense, at least very end of it. But that's my favorite one of that series is Before Midnight. But I'll get into that another day. But no, it's a great film. Great choice, definitely for number 8. So
cool.
I actually own my number 8. Wow, look at that! My number 8 is actually going to be Casino.
Now that one has Sharon Stone in it.
Yes, that one does. Actually, she's on this list a couple times for me. But yeah, that one's got Sharon Stone. It's got Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, quintessential mobster gangster movie. I know it doesn't quite get the acclaim that some of those other types of gangster films get, like Goodfellas or The Godfather and that sort of stuff. But I enjoy this one just nonetheless. I enjoy it. It's set in Vegas. They're basic mobsters. It's loosely based on a true story about the original mobsters that moved out to Vegas and basically helped start the casino industry, basically. So it's kind of entails that story and the trials and tribulations that they go through, and it's got some great acting in there. They're all flawed characters in some way or capacity. I always like that about the mobster movies. Is they're all there's no saints in that movie at all. There's a lot of good action in there. There's some really good, powerful scenes, very violent scenes as well. So if you like mobster movies and you like action and you like a good story with good dialogue, then Casino is definitely one to check out. So
cool.
Number 8.
Yeah, Casino is one that I need to see again someday because I do.
Oh, I own it. So come on by as soon as this quarantine is lifted. Come on by, borrow it, and I'll let you check that out.
Okay. All right. Good.
Bring the popcorn, and we'll watch it.
Yeah, I think I may not have actually seen that since I saw it in the theater in 1995. Maybe I saw it once afterwards, but that would have been like pretty soon after that because the only time I remember seeing it for sure was in the theater in 1995. So I do remember liking it, but both of us are getting to the age where you say things like I haven't seen that movie in 25 years and it doesn't really feel like that long ago.
Right. No, I agree. Some of these I was surprised even came out in 95 and then I did the math and I was like, I feel like that was just a couple of years ago. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No.
The Usual Suspects 25 years ago. Good Lord.
Yeah.
So one of these days I'll see Casino again. And maybe I'll change my list, but who knows?
You know where you can find it.
Yeah. I think I can probably find it other places now too. Yeah. Cool. Good choice.
All right, we're moving right along. Number 7.
Okay, my number 7 is fittingly 7. It's kind of a weird
Oh,
cover there. You can't really,
yeah.
but it's 7.
I see it.
Uh,
I see what's happening.
yeah, yeah. So 7 is my number 7. Again, I feel weird because I love that movie so much, saying it feels like I'm putting it low on the list, but I'm really not because I love all these movies. Um, but 7 is obviously, I think, a great movie. I don't think very many people try to contend that it's not a great movie. Um, I think it was interesting because it came out at a time when there was kind of a glut of those kind of movies. Because I remember when I first saw it, I thought it was good, but like I didn't think it was like really that amazing because there had been so many movies kind of in the wake of The Silence of the Lambs. They were kind of ripping off that. There were so many serial killer movies in the 90s, and a lot of them were, copycats and Kiss the Girls, and they were all just kind of rip-offs of each other, and mostly rip-offs of The Silence of the Lambs. So
Right.
7, when it came out, I remember thinking like it was better than a lot of them, but there wasn't anything that special about it. Of course, I've watched it more over the years, and seeing David Fincher develop um, has, now I see that there's a lot more to it than just another serial killer movie. But at that point, David Fincher had only made Alien 3, which hadn't been a big success. I love Alien 3 now, especially, but at the time, it was not viewed as you know, a success at all. So this, I didn't have any reason to think this 7 movie was going to be anything better than all the other serial killer movies. Um, but obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. I've come to appreciate over the years. The interplay between Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, I think, is great. There's a lot of philosophical depth to their conversations and everything. There's a lot more to it than there is to say, Copycat or Kiss the Girls or something like that. And of course, there's that ending. That ending is infamous. It's parodied a lot these days, but if you watch it, it still has a pretty good sting to it. So 7, excellent film. My number 7.
All right, man. Yeah, no,
Yep.
great choice, man. It's another one that is on my top 10 as well, but it's going to be on probably on the second show also.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely love it. I kind of felt the same way you felt about it when I first saw it as well. I didn't go crazy over it the first time that I saw it either. It was like one of those ones that I appreciated it more and more as I saw it, over the years and that sort of stuff. So it was one that actually kind of developed and grew into one of my more favorite films. But no, it's a great film. Like you said, it's got a great twist ending. Seems like maybe that's what 95 was known for, their big twists. But
Yeah.
no, it's got a great twist ending. It's like you said, it's one of those ones that probably a lot of people initially would have thought that it was another one of those rip-off, flash in the pan films. But no, this one was great. The acting was good in there. The story was good. It was scary. It's creepy. Like I said, I really enjoy it quite a bit. So yeah, definitely one that I'll be talking about a little bit later on my list. So
Cool. Cool.
not this show, but the next subsequent show. So
Right.
my number 7 is actually going to throw probably for a loop. I don't own it, but it's The Quick and the Dead, which
Yeah.
is also actually does star Sharon Stone.
Yes.
So that one stars Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, and very young Leonardo DiCaprio as well. Is in there also, and it's a western. I told everybody I like westerns. I've always had a thing for westerns growing up. So my dad was big into westerns, and his father was in western. So it's just been kind of like one of those things where occasionally I like a good western. What I like about this one is not your typical western. It's more of so basically Gene Hackman is kind of like the sheriff of a town, and kind of for sport he hosts these gun duels where he basically anybody can come into town and challenge anybody to a duel, and basically it goes on to there's basically the last man or woman standing, and so basically he's not a good guy. Russell Crowe's in there as well.
Yeah.
He's not a good
Before
guy.
anybody,
Um,
before anybody in this country knew who he was, really.
yeah. He was relatively unknown in there, and so they basically do these gun duels where you just challenge somebody to a gun duel, and they come out and then they take their 10 paces, and then they shoot, and then someone's a winner and someone's a loser, and the loser dies, basically. But no, it's a really good film. It's got a lot of different twists to it. It's quite interesting. It's obviously has a lot of shoot 'em up, gun battles, gunfights, that sort of stuff. So it's a good action film. It's one that I've always loved. I love that one from the beginning. I've seen it in recent years and still really, really love it a lot. So it still, like I said, still makes my top 10 list for 1995. So.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I like The Quick and the Dead. It's one that I haven't seen in quite a while. I don't actually own it. There is some movies I like that I don't own. So, but I do remember liking it a lot. Of course, it's Sam Raimi directed it, and I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi most of the time.
Right.
So it's got kind of a lot of his like quirky visual things. I know I
Mhm.
don't want to say who it is because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But there's a shot where you're looking through the bullet hole in one of the characters' heads through to somebody
Yeah.
else's face. So,
Total,
just stuff.
total Sam Raimi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he loves doing that kind of stuff, and I love it too. And yeah, this it got really panned back in the day. I remember that, and I remember seeing it and thinking like I didn't understand why it was being panned because it's a really fun movie, and I like the characters. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's one that I
Yeah.
would like to catch up with again because I haven't seen it in a really long time, but I saw it at least 2 or 3 times back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, it's one that's not going to win any Oscars or nothing like that. But I don't think that you necessarily have to. Every movie has to be some prestigious, Oscar movie for it to fall into my personal top 10. And I
Oh,
think
no, no.
yours. Well, I don't like it when people only like the movies that pretty much all the critics love. You know what I mean? I think you got to have some different movies in there, some different films that you enjoy, because everybody should like something that's not necessarily a critical darling or some big blockbuster hit and that sort of stuff. And there's a mix of that on my list as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the ones that probably isn't as popular as some of the other. When you think of a top 10 list for 2000 or for 1995, it probably won't make everybody's top 10. But it's one that if you like a good western and a movie that doesn't take us too self seriously and it's just a lot of fun in a lot of ways. And Gene Hackman's really great in there as a bad guy. And
Oh yeah, he's great. He's a
so
great bad guy.
he plays a great bad guy in there. Then I definitely urge everybody to check that one out. So all
Cool.
right,
All right.
and we're up to the number 6.
All right. My number 6 is a very special movie to me. It is Strange Days. It's probably one of the lesser known movies on this list.
Yeah.
And it's also very frustrating because it's still, you can see this is it's a DVD, which is not bad. I mean, I still have lots of DVDs, but it's never been released on Blu-ray in this country. Um, and I don't even think you can really find it streaming anywhere. Maybe I haven't checked, but this DVD, it's not even anamorphic, which means on a high def TV, it doesn't even fill up the whole screen. It just fills up like the square portion in the middle, and it's already widescreen. So you're just if you watch this DVD, you're just watching like a little part of the middle of the screen, and that's really frustrating. So I really hope that comes out on Blu-ray one of these days here, because I don't want to have to buy a region-free Blu-ray player, but I will if I have to. But yeah, this is a really special movie to me because it bombed. Of course, it bombed really hard when it came out. Um, but I was one of the few people that actually saw it in the theater. I remember I went with another friend of mine opening weekend, and it was only him, me, and like I think one other person. So I should have known at the time, but um, it was like that. I know it was bad that nobody was there, but it almost felt like it almost kind of made it more special because it felt like this movie was like made for me or something. I loved it so much. It just seemed to be so many things that I love about movies in one package. And it felt like since I was practically the only person in the theater that it was just for me almost in a weird way. But it's set on close to New Year's Eve 1999, which I think was part of the problem because it came out in 1995. It's set, it's a very futuristic movie, but it's only set 5 years in
4 years
the
in the
future,
future.
which almost dates it almost immediately, which is
Right.
bad. But I mean, I get they wanted to tap into the whole like millennial anxiety of like when the year 2000 and people were kind of apprehensive about it back in the day, believe it or not. Um, so again, it's set in the future. It's set in kind of a dystopian future that where there's this device that people can record memories and sell them. And of course, it's developed into this thing where people are selling memories on the black market of things that you would, if you want to experience what it's like to rob a bank without actually having to rob a bank, you can buy the memory from someone else who's actually robbed a bank just to record it to give it to you. So it's like this really cool concept. And it's a murder mystery. It's a science fiction film. It's an action film. It's got an amazing soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks. Ray Fiennes is really great in there. Juliette Lewis is really great in there. But the main star of that movie to me is Angela Bassett. It's easily one of my favorite Angela Bassett roles. She kicks so much ass in that movie. I love it.
Isn't Tom Sizemore in there too?
Oh yeah, Tom Sizemore. Yeah, he was in everything that year. He was one of those guys that was in everything in like the mid '90s there. But it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, and who directed before this. She directed Point Break. She directed this. Went on to direct the Hurt Locker and what was Zero Dark 30. So she's one of those filmmakers who really shows that it's not just men that can direct really like kick-ass action movies, So I like that. That's another thing I like about it. It's just one of my favorite movies. Again, like a lot of people haven't seen it. It's not even available on Blu-ray in this country, and I don't know about the streaming. You have to check for that, but it's like one of those little cult classics that I think more people should see. So, Strange Days, and listen to the soundtrack too because it's awesome.
Absolutely. No, I really enjoyed that one quite a bit. It didn't make my top 10, but like you, it was like one of those that like when I tell people about it, no one's heard of it. You know what I mean? I'm like, well,
I know it sucks.
Yeah, there's not a huge surprise that it's not on Blu-ray because me, you, and whoever you went to the movie with were probably the only three people that ever even saw it. You know what I mean? But
yeah, but like everything
doesn't mean it's not good. Yeah.
Everything's
on Blu-ray. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's one of those films that it has some good action. It's set to be futuristic, but clearly we're 25 years later, and there's still no types of device that I can watch somebody murder somebody or do a bank robbery or whatever the case may be. But it's definitely one of those films that, like I said, maybe might feel dated for somebody watching it today. I don't know. It's hard to say if it would or not, but it's definitely one that I would say that you should at least check out. I still enjoy it. Like I said, it didn't make my top 10, but it was definitely a really good film. And 95 was a great year though. Man, there was a lot of good movies that came out that year. When I was going over the list, I saw that one. I was like, I knew it was going to be in your top 10 somewhere. It would have been almost number one for you at one point, right? Wasn't it like number one when you first watched it, or did that change for you? Or
it was one of those movies that, like, right away when I first watched it, I thought, like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But I mean, like I said, I struggled with the ranking. Right. And I haven't watched it in a really long time because I don't want to watch this old DVD that is not even anamorphic. If I watch it on a widescreen TV, it's just going to be a tiny little strip in the middle, and I kind of don't want to watch it until I can watch it for real. I guess I should look at what the streaming options are, but I think for a while it was on Netflix, but I don't think it is anymore. So, yeah, I mean, again, it was really hard to rank it. That just shows you that my top 5 are like really, really, really beloved by me. So
absolutely, no, definitely, same here. Yeah. Number 6 for me is a one that probably everybody in the world has seen and loves. I don't own it. I guess I don't know what. Maybe I do. If I own it, I can't find it. So
what do you own? Pierre? What do you own?
I own Casino, obviously.
So-called movie buff.
Yeah, I own Casino. Yeah. I got like 600 films. It's just these aren't one of the 600. So every single one of my top 5, I believe, though. So that's something. 6 for me is actually Toy Story. So yeah, that's number 6. So yeah, it's so everybody's seen it, obviously. we should probably all know the story by now, and the 4 or 5 sequels that they've had about Toy Story. Great cartoon. I like to mix it up a little bit. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is a really, really good, animation feature, and it still holds up today. It probably gets a little bit lost in the shuffle because of all the subsequent sequels that they've made to Toy Story. There's, been a few, and they could have ended it probably at least 2 Toy Stories ago, but I just enjoy it. It's a really good kids film, and adults can enjoy it as well. It's got a great story. It's like one of those films here where I kind of almost wish I was a kid when I saw it, because it'd be really cool to have all these toys and like wonder if they like come alive when I leave the room and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, that's my number 6, Toy Story. Great film.
Yeah, I love Toy Story. It's actually not in my list. It's in my runner-ups because, like I told you, I have I think 8 runner-ups that I just could not bear to not include in some way from this year that I'll bring up in the next segment very briefly at the end. Just like these are my runner-ups that I couldn't bear to not mention, and that's one of those. I wasn't, believe it or not, I wasn't crazy about it when I saw it in 1995. I was 17, so I thought I was too old for it, probably 17 or 18, and I was kind of skeptical of CGI at the time because, and I'm still a little, whenever there's a movie that uses CGI when they could have done practical effects, I'm a practical effects fan. I've come around, like I appreciate good CGI, but back in the day, I was like, what is this? This is not cool. This whole computer graphics thing. And I remember thinking it was fine, but obviously, kind of like Seven, the more times I watched it, the more it's become like this institution. The more I do appreciate that it is very funny. It's very clever. The humor is very clever. Visually, it's very inventive. And I actually probably prefer 2 and 3 actually a little bit to the first one. I do love the first one, but I think 2 is probably my favorite still, and I think 3 is really good too. But I love all the first 3. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that in love with part 4? Frankly, it was fine, but it just seemed like unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah, that one definitely was unnecessary. I felt 3 wasn't 100% necessary. After seeing 3, I felt like, okay, they definitely can end it here. This is, but of course they didn't because we got to make money.
Yeah.
But if people will go see it, they're going to make another one. That's why those films. But no, they totally could have ended that one at 3. I don't know if I've ever actually thought to rank them yet. I just haven't gotten that far to rank them. And me, I thought 3 was a little darker, which you might about it, but I kind of felt some kind of way about it being a little bit darker. I liked it. I just didn't love it, I guess, as the first 2. I thought the first 2 had a little bit more heart and fun, where 3 was a little more darker, I guess, if you will. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And sad.
Definitely sad. But I mean, 2's got sad parts too. 2's got.
No, it does. Yeah. They both do. As Andy grows older and doesn't want to play with the toys as much and that sort of stuff, you're like, oh, he doesn't want to play with the toys.
Pierre, you big softy.
Oh. Yeah, I'm a big softy heart.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that is our that concludes the first half of the best top 10 films of 1995. Great list so far. Not a whole lot of duplicates in our first half. Anyways, they might start showing up as we go through our top 5, of course. But so that's always good. I felt like with like the quarantine one and some of the other ones, we were kind of like almost coming up with a lot of the same similar films, and especially the last one we did, the Bags of Money one. There was a lot of ones that crossed over that were very similar. So, but no, great list. Like I said, nothing on your list that I disliked or didn't like or anything like that. So, excited to see what your top 5 is, and I think I have some ideas, but definitely want to see what makes the cut or which ones don't make the cut and that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, same here. And I guess we should say, should have said at the beginning maybe that I have no idea what's on your list, and you had no idea what's on my list.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
we've
good
been
guesses.
trying to. Yeah, and I never brought this up. With us when we do these lists, we don't typically discuss, what we might discuss the topic we're going to talk about, or maybe even talk about some sample films that may show up in that list. But we don't talk about our orders or ranking or what we're going to put in our top 10. And we kind of just come in. So I'm learning as you're learning his top 10, and vice versa.
Yeah.
There are occasions where we have to reshoot these broadcasts because of technical difficulties. So by the time we actually went live on these things, I do know, but
Yeah.
but most times I have no clue what your top 10 is going to be or what your list is going to entail. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, we want to thank you guys once again for watching Sacktown Movie Buffs. We hope to get another show up for you soon. Definitely gonna, stay tuned for our top half. A lot of great films that I'm sure are gonna pop up on both of our lists. And anything you wanted to add, Jason, before we go?
No, just I'm looking forward to this project, and I'm already looking at 1996 and seeing that that's going to be a hard year to rank too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know it'll definitely all of the years are going to be kind of hard. I think till you get into like later 2000s, there's some years that I didn't actually love, but definitely there'll be a lot of great years where I'm going to have to whittle it down from like 30 films and try to whittle it down to like 10, which is difficult, difficult as heck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be back soon with our next show. Once again, if you like this podcast and you want to see us do more videos, we just ask that you please like and subscribe us. Like I said, we're everywhere now. We're on like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We'll be on Twitter soon. But, we're everywhere, so you can find us anywhere. And like I said, like and subscribe, and we appreciate the support and all the positive feedback that we've been getting. And yeah, please go ahead and like the comments as well. We appreciate feedback and comments. And just so you guys know, I did want to bring this up before we do go. We're not going to solely just do list shows. I know we've been doing that kind of a lot in the beginning. We will try to get to some more current, just maybe review a couple new movies that we've seen or that kind of stuff. But because of this quarantine situation, we haven't been able to get to the movies as often as we like. And that's why we're kind of doing more of the list shows. But I like these. These are fun too.
Yeah.
A good trip down memory lane, and also forces me to watch movies that I haven't watched in about 25 years. So
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for watching, and we will catch up with you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.